We are looking forward our way from Studio C in the 511 studios. That's in the Brewer District, just south of downtown Columbus, Ohio. This is Brett. How many of you have heard the term AI and just shaken your head in disbelief? How can we let those computers and their artificial intelligence take over the world, it seems like? Well, today we're going to get into artificial intelligence and hopefully see the value it can bring to our lives, especially when it comes to job searching. Our career expert, Sharon Hamersly, is sharing her knowledge of AI, both its benefits and its pitfalls. Everything has its yin and its yang. Sharon's known as the LinkedIn coach and the resume coach and is always making sure we're on target with advice to those in a job search situation. Sharon, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hello, Brett and Carol. Thanks so much for having me. I always love being here.
Oh, good. We're glad of that.
Yeah. We are. We're really glad that you were willing to talk about this topic because it's really kind of crazy. So it's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
So, we're going to, for our audience, Sharon is always here giving us great advice on job seeking. She's a good, strong guide to what people need to know in terms of job seeking. We've done this for many, many years, and you work with clients literally 18 to 80. So you've got that wide background. This whole AI thing is something new for all of us. So we're going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about you. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so number one thing I have to say, especially today for this podcast, is I consider myself at best an advanced beginner with AI. So this is what I know right now. I'm learning. Hopefully we'll all learn over time. So
right.
that's basically what I want to say.
And this will be fun for us to update it in the future.
Yeah.
We can do more stuff.
We can do more stuff as we discover stuff. So anyway, I started my career at Ohio State as an academic advisor, spent about 20 years there, kind of interacted with Carol on occasion.
Go Bucks.
Yes. O-H.
Yes. Yes. And Brett is just shaking his head. Poor Brett.
Yeah, right. So anyway, part of my job was to work with our Career Services Office in Arts and Sciences and help students figure out what they wanted to do next. So that's basically the foundation of what I am doing now goes all the way back to that. Then I spent about 10 years in the private sector in various roles. And eventually I figured out that having a job is great, but making your own job is better. And so I started my career coaching practice back in 2010. And my goal is really, and this has always been my goal, is to support clients seeking new jobs or change of scenery in the topsy-turvy world of 21st century job search. Many years ago, I started using the tagline, tools for your 21st century job search. Well, folks, we're almost a quarter century in to the 21st century, and people are still struggling with the concept of what a 21st century job search looks like.
Exactly.
And now we have another little wrinkle in all of this called AI. So basically, my goal is to provide the tools and the resources, resumes, cover letters, job search strategy coaching, interview coaching, LinkedIn profile development, all of that. So that's where I sit in the world of career coaching, career development.
Well, and I think too, what's interesting, and this happens often with new technology starts, is we think it's, oh my gosh, it's really, how am I going to learn this? When in actuality, we've been using AI for a long time. It's all of a sudden now hit the front page of the newspaper, and that's why everybody is up in arms. But we've been doing this. So this is going to be a fun conversation to kind of work our way through some of the minutia of it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So let's start by defining what AI is and what it's not. And then there's some programs around AI as well, too. So it's, kind of AI exists, but then it has to have an interface with us
yes,
to be able to utilize it the best
right.
way we can. Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing that people probably don't realize. AI actually started mid-20th century when we got the first computers, those big, huge boxes. Mm-hmm. And so people started thinking about, well, how could we use this to automate tasks and do things like that? You have a new tool, so you want to find ways to use it. So during most of the 20th century, the main limitation was that our computers simply were not powerful enough to actually execute the type of programs and commands that would be needed to generate, to automate tasks. So that was a big challenge. In the early 2000s, people started, computers got a lot better and a lot more powerful. So people started to be able to work with it more and more. And I'm sure everybody remembers Watson on Jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
You know how long ago that was? That was 2011. Watson.
And Watson had been around even then.
Oh, yeah. He'd been around then. So in one sense, when we say AI and we think this is some brand new shiny object, well, no, it's not actually a brand new shiny object. So now you encounter AI in your daily life, the ubiquitous chatbots that are either very helpful or extremely annoying.
Yeah.
So yeah, the chatbots, that's just part of our life nowadays. And Wendy's has announced that they're using AI to take orders at some of their places. I don't know how that's going because I don't usually go to Wendy's, but So anyway, so when people talk about AI nowadays for the masses, for us folks, they're usually talking about two programs. One is called ChatGPT, and I forgot to look up, that is an acronym, and I forgot to look up what it actually...
We'll put it in the resources.
Okay, yeah. And then the other one is attached to the Edge browser, that's Microsoft Copilot. So those are two that are pretty readily accessible. ChatGPT has a free and a paid subscription. And like I said, Microsoft Copilot, that's just part of the Edge browser. You can use that using Edge. And there are lots of other AI programs, and I'm going to mention a few later on that might be helpful in job search, and we'll put those in the resources too. But anyway, they're free and paid, and they can be useful. And the last thing I want to say about AI is that it's very powerful, but it's never a substitute for creativity and critical thinking. That's the thing. People seem to think or have this idea that somehow AI is going to give them the answers that they need without actually thinking about it. And that's just absolutely not the case. That right. You have to be very careful about that. Depending on the subject, this information could be, inaccurate, just dead wrong. There's an acronym MSU for AI programs. MSU stands for makes stuff up. So that you have to recognize that the limitation of any AI program is it's not able to think critically and be that creative. So.
It's just popping stuff out at you after it has learned, and I'm using that term quote unquote learned, collected all the stuff, all the bits and pieces, and it throws them together.
Yeah. Right.
But again, I think when people are so upset or concerned about AI is going to take over the world, AI's been around for 20 years.
Yep.
We just haven't called it that.
Yeah.
Google searching is AI.
Yep.
How many years have we been doing Google searching?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing.
Yep.
AI is a little bit more advanced, but it's not, there isn't some, what was the name of that guy on the computer in that movie?
I don't know.
Oh, the 2001?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Gotcha. Right. Space Odyssey? Okay.
Yes, the 2001 Space Odyssey movie.
HAL.
Yeah.
HAL the computer.
Yes.
Yep.
HAL the computer. HAL is not coming down to find us.
Yeah.
This is a tool.
Yep.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Great.
Yep. Right.
Okay. So when I hear the term AI, I'm queasy. As I said, everybody's a little concerned, and I'm queasy. I'm queasy more, not for fear of it, but queasy of, oh my gosh, how hard is this going to be to learn? But there are dozens of computer programs I've learned in the past. So, I have to get kind of over that queasiness. This is mysterious, I think. And I don't know if it really is, or the news makes it sound that way. We just have to kind of cut through the noise of media.
Yeah.
As I said, we're always using Google Search, Google Maps. I know that, you got to be careful or they're going to send you to the wrong place. In all of that, with my Alexa, all of the stuff that we've got going on, where's the value in this, Sharon? Why should we just ignore it? Is it going to go away, or is there really value that it's bringing to us?
I'm absolutely sure that AI is not going away, number one. So as we've already mentioned a couple of times, AI is a tool. It's very helpful and can, I think, do a better job than something like Google in gathering and summarizing information quickly. And it's also pretty good at generating some basic ideas and concepts for content that you can then use and customize. So, and I really think that in some ways, as I've started to use AI, it is more helpful to me than Google. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later.
Okay.
But that's exactly the point, too. AI is not creative and it's not critical. You have to have your analysis and your thought processes. You have to apply that to what the AI program generates. So,
right. So my wife teaches at Wright State University, and I know she's. We're going to talk about plagiarism here, but there's been software programs that will at least search through papers and kind of go, okay, nah, you took that idea from here, and stuff. But this has now gone 1,000 miles an hour in totally different directions and stuff. So can we talk about ways that teachers or employers or any other administrator that can determine if you've plagiarized AI?
Yep. Okay, so I decided to do a little thought experiment here, and I went to Microsoft Copilot, and I asked Microsoft Copilot, how can you identify plagiarized material, And
how can you rat on yourself?
Yeah, how can you
Copilot?
rat on yeah, right. Okay, yeah. So here's what I got back from Copilot, and it's actually not too bad. First of all, it talked about some AI detectors. They're actually AI programs. There's one called Scribber. It says confidently identifies text generated by popular AI models. So there is actually another AI program that can. This is pretty interesting.
Hal telling on Hal.
Yeah, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, right. So, but then also, and I think this gets to the central point of this whole issue, AI-ish features. Okay, so there are, as you look at, a reader can look at content and for signs of AI-generated writing. Number one, incorrect or outdated information. So we've talked about the MSU make stuff up phenomenon. If you're reading something and it doesn't sound right, there's probably an AI component in there somewhere. Also, lack of depth or personality. AI just kind of throws stuff out there. It doesn't have a personality per se. So if you're reading a student's essay and you kind of know, generally what they say, how they say it, and that type of thing, this doesn't look like it. Well,
chances are, yeah.
Yep, right. And then also repetitive language, and I've seen this myself when I've used AI for various tasks that I want to try to get some help with. it generates repetitive words and phrases. It says the same thing over 2 paragraphs down, So all of those things, it takes. Here's the irony of this. You can sort of get a sense on one level by using another AI program that something is AI generated, but your eyes and your mind are probably going to be pretty good if you know what you're looking for to see if there's AI generated content in something.
Yeah.
Is it true that if you have written something, a document, an article, or whatever, and you put it into AI to have that check it or whatever, are you giving your material to AI?
Yep, you're training the model.
So that's the other thing, that what it's spitting out to you is somebody else's work. It
could be. Although, from what I've seen, just putting in things, and I'll give an example here in just a second. It does. I don't think it pulled something from somebody else necessarily. I think it has enough intelligence, or whatever we want to call that, to be a somewhat independent content generator. Yeah, it's looking at other stuff, I'm sure, but
you got me thinking too, because I use AI in the podcast world, but that's based on the transcript itself. So what we'll do is from this episode, kind of inside baseball, take this episode, run it through AI, but it's the transcript of this. So it's generating content specifically from the transcript.
Yeah.
We're talking about, though, general fishing, going in the ocean and picking stuff. And I got to thinking that it's still AI spits out these phrases, AI speak, delves into. Oh, it loves delves. It loves the word delves. But I had to look up while you were talking to, and it came up on LinkedIn about overused AI speak.
Yeah.
And a lot of it crutch words like consequently, furthermore, in addition to, loves those phrases.
Yeah.
Very, extremely, significantly, in today's world, in conclusion. So, but I bring this up because if it spits out something like that for you, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because those scriber is going to see that, kind of going, that's a phrase. That's a phrase AI likes, AI speak.
Yeah.
And too, Brett and I were looking at some stuff online before Sharon got to the studio to start the podcast, and GPT's free version is almost 3 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can use the free stuff, but it's going to be, for those of you who are going into high school and you're letting the chat write your papers, they're going to be 2 years old.
If it happened in 2023, it doesn't know about it.
It doesn't know about it. Yes, exactly.
It's like using Cliff Notes here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And you better figure out what's happened in the meantime too.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always struggle with, even in Google, is how to phrase my question. What phrase do I use to get the answer I want? And as I mentioned, Google Maps, if you're not careful on Google Maps, it's going to send you to Columbus, Georgia instead of Columbus, Ohio. So you have to really see what it is you're putting in. Are there tips on writing the most useful, and I think they call them prompts, in order to get the most useful answers in an AI program?
Yes. Basically, your foundation is you're beginning with the end in mind. That's really what you need to do. What is it that you want the AI, ChatGPT, Copilot to do? And the more specific, the better. Let me give you an example of that. So, in the job search world. So, I could tell ChatGPT, provide 3 accomplishment statements for an accountant position. Okay. ChatGPT will spit something back at me, for sure. But it's going to be very generic, and it may really not be very helpful to what I'm actually looking to do, to present as my particular qualifications for an accountant position. If you were to put in ChatGPT many more specifics, provide 3 accomplishment statements based on the following skills required for an entry-level accounting position. You'd get something that was you'd get something that was much closer, that you'd actually have some content that you could work with and then adjust it to your particular situation. You get some ideas. That's the good thing about AI. It's a great idea generator. It can really help you. If I'm stuck staring at a blank screen, I've started actually just going to ChatGPT or Copilot or another program that I'll mention here in a little bit, and just saying, okay, so I need help identifying, and then I put it in as much content as I can, or as much of what I'm looking for as possible, and it will give me some stuff back. I'm like, oh, okay, now I know where to go next. So I'm probably not even going to use that content in what I'm actually writing, but it's like, oh wait, yeah, I need to go this direction.
It's almost like you're educating yourself along with
I'm
AI.
along with the AI. So and another point is that you can and actually should use multiple prompts around the same question. So don't just say provide 3 accomplishment statements. Okay, you can also use a prompt like, what are 3 accomplishment statements for a entry level accountant position? Using these skills. So kind of rephrase it a little bit, and you'll get slightly different content. And the more content, that's the handy thing about this, the more content you have, the more you have to work with to then take it, apply your thought processes, your critical thinking, your creativity to the content that the AI has provided for you. So that's really what you're trying to do. Always think about, what is it that I really need to get out of this, and then be very specific when you use your prompt in generating your prompts.
And it's like it in the whole job search, that is a path we tell folks. Make some decisions, have an idea of where you're going, where you want to be. So before you're even starting to collect all of these bits and pieces, you really have to have a good idea, as you said. Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So you have to have made some decisions before you get to that.
Yeah.
Does a prompt have a limitation on size? I mean, at what point in time does it get to be too long?
I haven't actually tested that one out.
Okay, well, we can do that there. I mean, you can ask more and more prompts.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I would say just from my very basic knowledge of how this all works is, give it a prompt. If you don't like what it says, give it, revise that prompt. Say no.
As opposed to making it longer.
Yeah, as opposed to.
Yeah, I've been to a couple of presentations that the prompts are even like you're quote unquote talking to AI.
Yeah.
That it gives you the answer of what, that first prompt.
Yeah.
And say, you literally say, I guess it comes down to the person wants to personify AI. So it gets them in the mindset they're asking that unpaid intern to do their work. And they're saying, no thanks. That's not the answer I was looking for. Now but let's refine that. You're almost having a conversation with it, which I think is freaky in itself.
Yeah.
And I haven't got to that prompt mindset yet, because we were talking about this before we started recording. These prompts are seems to be the hardest piece of it is really getting into your own head, because you do it automatically.
Yeah.
So it's that now I'm writing something in here to encapsulate something I guess I can kind of do on my own, but I want to utilize the power that's out there for ideas, like you said. Yeah. It's just so difficult. But I've heard that. I think to your point of that long prompt, I've seen people write this, and then comma, this, then comma, and it gets it.
Oh, really?
So I guess I'm assuming there's it knows what you want to do, other than maybe, like you said too, it's that short change kind of feel to it.
Yeah, to give
refinement.
To it. Yeah, right. And actually, I have a completely not job search related example of this where I've been using AI just for fun, basically. There's a program out there on one of the game sites that's called Word Hunt, and it gives you 6 or 7 letters, and usually I can figure it out myself. And occasionally I'm like, huh? So I'll just open Chat GPT, say, give me 10 words that use these letters. and and then what I find is that sometimes it's really accurate and I can actually use that in my game. And sometimes it's like, wow, are you off? You get to make stuff up, and it'll use letters that I didn't give it.
So is it going to help me on Wordle every morning?
You never know. You might try it. Yeah.
You know it's going to be scary so one day you're going to ask about Wordle, and it's going to say, oh, Carol, you're playing Wordle this morning along with 50,000 other people. I'm not going to tell you the answer.
That sounds like hell.
It does. And you know what's so funny? I do Wordle on the New York Times, on my New York Times subscription. They now have a chat box that is a helper.
Oh,
so it's not where you're asking questions, but it'll give you some information.
Prompts,
at the very end.
Clues.
Well, yeah, clues.
Yeah.
At the very end, it'll actually give you the word. But I'm like, I kind of like guessing at this.
Yeah, right.
But I also have a system, so.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Well, getting back to what we were supposed to be talking about. I still think it's fun, though.
I was just going to say, this is getting.
Oh, yeah.
This is a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, right.
If you've gone through the job search process you've listened to some episodes that we've had Sharon on, we've talked about ATS, applicant tracking systems. And so employers have been using AI programming in their recruiting efforts for years, using ATSs. ATSs have been the first line of resume review since AI became available. What else are employers doing with AI programming, and how can a job seeker, quote unquote, beat those AI guardrails, or at least to understand, okay, this is when I put something together, it's going to be in this program.
Yeah.
And this is how I have to put things together for it to at least even recognize it.
Yeah. So the first thing I'd like to say is that applicant tracking systems, and this is something I think people don't really understand really that well, is they're a tracking system that helps recruiters keep track of who's applied, what their status is. It's kind of a database or a virtual filing cabinet that they have. So you need to understand that's a large part of what ATS actually is. And then there are, there's so many different ATS systems that trying to beat them is, you can do that. Because it can be hard. Many ATS systems do have add-ons then that rank and filter beyond the minimum qualifications. But the one thing that I saw as I've been kind of investigating this, when you ask this question, I'm like, oh, I need to go out. And there was a really good article on LinkedIn the other day about that from somebody who'd been a recruiter. Beyond making sure that you meet the minimum qualifications, that your resume has the wording that would be expected from somebody meeting those qualifications. The best thing, and I think this is probably a really good point, is you want to be an early applicant. If you see a job that's posted, you want to hop right on that, because the recruiter whose article I was reading said, his ATS system, first thing it does, it just puts all of the applications in the order received. So
there's an algorithm to the first one to respond.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. So that's something that I don't think people are really aware of. And I think that's probably true from what he said of most systems. Now, as they become more sophisticated, there are also some formatting issues that you need to be aware of. You want to be careful. You don't want to put any information in the header or footer. Apparently, ATS systems they still don't scan that. They're pretty sophisticated, but they don't scan that, and they don't scan text boxes. So you want to make sure that if you're using text boxes, that's great. That can improve the appearance for the human reader. And you want to maybe have some of those little pops and pointers for a reader. But if the information is in a text box, it also needs to be in the body of the resume.
That's where I thought you were going with this.
Yeah.
So to clarify, it's not that you can't put things in the text box. It's that if it's not scanned, then you could end up with an application that's missing huge, important pieces of information about you and your skills and your experiences that because it's not scanned, it's not being evaluated.
Yeah.
So that's what's the state of Ohio, and I don't know if they still do this or not. The state of Ohio had a box at the very end of their application system. And as I said, this is going back years, that the recruiters had to convince my students that they would get to that end box, and because it was at the end of a very long application, they'd say, see attached resume, and not put anything in that box. But the recruiters who were reading these applications looked at the box first. And if you didn't show all of your skills and experiences that met everything in the application, they didn't look at the rest of the application.
Yep.
So you had to put everything in that box. Now, for whatever reason, that was their tool at the time. As I said, I don't know if they still do it, but you have to be really careful in what you're putting where in these systems, because the applicant tracking system is not going to make it's not making decisions based on what you think it should make decisions. It's making decisions based on whatever the computer programming is telling it to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. So, two other points. Number one, and I've seen this more than I like to, because some of my clients have gotten this, somebody picks up their resume off LinkedIn and then messages them and said, hey, your resume isn't ATS compliant. Let me fix it for you for money, of course.
A lot of dollars.
Yeah, for a lot of dollars. Now, it's very hard. I mean, we've gone through all of the complexities now of how an ATS system works, or many of the complexities, and how to format your resume and other information. When you're in an ATS system, it's asking you for other information too. Usually, you're filling out something, then you're uploading your resume, all of this. So anyway, so what I found is when these people send me what this person is saying, they're saying things like, you can't use bullet points in an ATS compliant resume. I'm like, really? That is an obvious sign of an outright scam. That's a scam. So while we're talking AI, anything that's out there you can use the scam folks with, unfortunately. So okay, so you want to be very careful of that. And if somebody's offering to make your resume ATS compliant, just tell them no thanks. That's my line. And then my final point is what not to do. There's an urban myth, and this pops up, I swear. Twice a year, 3 times a year, somebody says, oh, you should put all the keywords in white font around the edges. I'm like, no. While it's possible that the ATS would pick that up, the recruiter can tell that you've been kind of messing around, because something will look a little funky when they actually pull the resume up on the screen, or they can see the white font.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And see it, and if they can't see it, and your resume is approved, and they can't find those keywords in your actual resume, then I'm like, how did it get through the system?
Yeah,
It's not going to keep you in the loop. It's going to they're going to take you out.
My mind went back to your comment about the algorithm of the first one in wins kind of feel to it.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
And I wonder, give me your thoughts on this. That goes back to something you mentioned a couple of episodes ago that we recorded with you, maybe. That it's that if you have an interest in a specific company you want to work with, you're going to follow them. You're going to interact with them.
Yeah.
And if you are, then you have a greater interest and you're going to see that job opening pop up probably more quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So that maybe that's where it leans into the, if you applied early, meaning you probably followed, you interacted, and you see it post up. That, in my mind, that made sense because like, why would that? It's like, but you mentioned that a few episodes ago.
Yeah, right. It really does demonstrate your interest.
Job searching includes an enormous amount of research in order to correctly target the job postings and successfully gain that employment, that job you want. How can AI support those efforts, whether it's in learning more about specific jobs or even the employers?
Well, the big, from my perspective, and as I've been using this, the big advantage of using AI for research is that the information you need is more specific and it's compiled for you. You type in, something in Google and you get, this huge long thing. If you type a similar question into AI, you're likely to get a more compact list, set of information
as opposed to paid commercials.
Yeah, right. So, but you have to sort through a lot of links when you use Google or even LinkedIn. So, a specific example, I asked Copilot. I just said, okay, who's the Chief Human Resources Officer at Nationwide Insurance? And you have to ask this at Copilot, incidentally, for a free thing because of what we mentioned before about ChatGPT being 2 years behind, or however. Copilot is actually up to date, and I verified this. So I asked Copilot, who's the Chief Human Resources Officer at Nationwide Insurance? And it says Vanita Clements currently serves, and, I valid Chief Human Resource Officer. And, there's more detail about her with links to other sources. You might be able to find this on LinkedIn or in Google, but this puts it in one place with some links to do research and kind of get right on top of what you need to know and see, what are connected. Then you can go back to LinkedIn, look at her LinkedIn profile and do other things like that. So there is another system that I recommend for this, and this is a pay-for system, but I think it's actually does a good job. It's called Perplexity, like perplexity. You're perplexed. This is called Perplexity.ai. So when I went there, I found more detailed information, and it mentioned some previous positions that she held, which Copilot did not. It just talked about her current position and gave some links. And Perplexity, I was using the free version just to try it out, but I think you get even more detail when you use the paid version. And the free version is limited to like a certain number of searches per month. So if you're heavy into job search and looking for resources and you have your company list and you need to know who are specific people in that company, I would say that it is actually worthwhile to pay for something like Perplexity. And I'm not getting paid by Perplexity, obviously. It's just that as I've used this a couple of times, just the free version, I was saying, okay, if you get the paid version and you're doing a lot of research, you don't have to pay for it for more than a couple of months probably. But, I think that that's really good because I asked the exact same question and it gave me a lot more detail about previous positions, college, university attended. I think it was probably pulling stuff out of LinkedIn, but, I had the name and I had a whole bunch of information right there. Then I could go back to LinkedIn or I could look to see if this person is on other social media that might be useful, those types of things. So I think that's...
Does Perplexity have... do they specialize in something, or is it, or do AI programs basically talk about anything?
Well, Perplexity it says it's a business program, whatever that means.
Like LinkedIn compared to Facebook.
Yeah, right. So that's what Perplexity does. So yeah. So generally speaking, going back, ChatGPT is not up to date. Perplexity, I'm guessing, especially if you're paying for it, it better be up to date. Copilot may be up to date, but you have to double check.
So we always talk about how important the researching part of the job search is. But it is also incredibly critical to have wonderful job search materials, resumes, cover letters, introductory ideas, the networking, elevator speeches, all of those kinds of things. AI can pop all that stuff out for you, with very little effort. That's not necessarily a good idea. So let's talk about resumes, cover letters, talk about the advantages in using an AI program. What are the pitfalls? And what should we never do with AI?
Okay. So it's a useful idea generating writing tool. Here's an example. You can give a prompt saying, write resume achievements with metrics based on this job description. So you've got a job description, you put it in there, and ChatGPT, Copilot, they'll spit out a basic list that you can then use to achieve. And I'm going to say right up front, this list will definitely include some MSU items, make stuff up items, because the program is generalizing based on the information that you've given them. So
and if another person asks the same question, they're going to get the same things.
Yes.
So just like when you pay somebody to write your resume and you don't do anything on it, but they're writing 1,000 resumes a month, chances are pretty good your resume is going to look exactly like somebody else's.
Yeah, right. It could. So you want to be very careful that your actual document reflects your actual the facts of your employment history, and it's not doing the make stuff up. That's why you're going to start somewhere. I mean, we've all sat and stared at a blank screen, and that's so you don't even have to. I don't recommend actually, and the way I've been using it is I've just been using it. I call them snippets. I say, okay, I'm kind of stuck. Here's part of the here's part of the job posting. I'm going. I know my client has this. I'm just going to put this in there and ask ChatGPT to write a basic statement for me. And then I'm like, oh, wait, okay, so now I see, and I'll go back in because, my clients all have to fill out a questionnaire first anyway, so I'm going to go back and look at the questionnaire and see, what I need to pull out of there to, again, make that your experience and not ChatGPT's or somebody else's. So.
Right. I used to have a ton of different resume writing books. I had a stack of them, and it's not. I didn't plagiarize them, but just looking at different ways people do things and different ways they say things.
Yeah,
get your brain moving in terms of what can you say about yourself.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's a really good thing to have. And the same thing is true of your cover letter. You can pull from the job description. Your resume, not the one that ChatGPT gave you, but your actual resume, and then ask the AI to write a cover letter for you. Now, when I've done that, I found out very early that it's very eager to help, and it writes you this huge long missive. So.
And you only needed a snippet.
Yeah, and I only needed a snippet.
There you go.
So again, that's a caution, So bottom line for resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn profile for that matter, if you're writing your about statement or you want to get a good headline in LinkedIn, that type of thing, or even some snippets that you can put underneath, your individual experiences, because you don't want to copy paste just from your resume into LinkedIn. You want to make LinkedIn its own thing. But AI provides some good starting points, but you're still responsible for creating documents that are accurate and they reflect your brand. Okay, I know everybody hates that brand thing, but it really is an important part because you're speaking in your authentic voice. and which doesn't sound like anybody else, and certainly shouldn't sound like Chat GPT. So,
and it still goes back to that notion of when you get to an interview,
yeah,
and somebody looks at your resume and says, "Tell me what you mean by that statement." If you didn't write the statement,
yep,
you're not going to have an answer for them.
Yeah,
and that's not going to do you any good in your interview.
Yeah, right. And then they're going to discover that you were using AI to do your resume. Yeah, yeah. You really do have to be yourself, and know where you've got some ideas. Now let's make this me.
So Sharon, as I tell you every time, this goes really quickly. And audience, we're going to put together resources for you that you'll be able to find on our website. And contact information for Sharon.
Yep.
So that if you have questions or you're in your job search and you need help, or you know somebody who does need help, she is an incredible resource and works with people all over the country.
Yeah, right.
Based in Central Ohio, but she works with folks all over.
Yeah, I'm a virtual person. I'm happy to hop on Zoom, have a phone call with you, whatever.
Right. And I think too, our beginning message was this is basics on AI. We're not, none of us are, nobody's an expert right now because it changes so fast every day. But it's a place to start. And I think, too, what we were hoping to do is to ease you into it so that you don't see that trepidation that's on my face every time I think about it.
Yeah.
So, Sharon, last words of wisdom on AI, the goods, the bads, the pitfalls of using AI in your job search.
Okay. One more time here. AI is a tool. It's not a panacea. Content that it generates can be helpful when used as a starting point. And that's what it is. It's a starting point for your critical thinking and your creativity. You are the person who's responsible for presenting your candidacy in a positive and an accurate light. So that's the bottom line as far as I'm concerned is you're responsible. It's just like all facets of job search. Nobody else is going to do anything for you. You have to be the one. You can ask for help. People are going to be helpful, and you can ask AI for help, and AI will be moderately helpful in many cases. But you actually own your job search process and your career. So this is just one more tool in your toolbox.
Exactly. So it's a positive thing if it's used positively.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind. And all of those of you returning to school here, just remember it's a tool. It's not the last thing that you use. So.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Well, many thanks to Sharon Hamersly, our LinkedIn coach, resume coach, and local expert, assisting job seekers throughout Central Ohio and actually across the country, too. So, listeners, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to check out our show notes on the website for contact information and the resources that we've discussed today. You can find all of this information at lookingforwardourway.com. And we're looking forward to hearing your feedback on this or any of our other podcast episodes.